Hi, I'm Cameron Cheats with Queerty, and I am so thrilled to be joined today by Robbie Couch, the author who has a new book, If I See You Again Tomorrow, out April 18th, everywhere. So, Robbie, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing so well, Cameron. Yes, if I see you again tomorrow,
Oh my
April
God.
18th, I'm already like in promotion mode.
Today, we've got a very random, fun assortment of questions we're going to throw at you to talk about your books and just everything, just to let people get to know you on a deeper level. And we're just going to jump right into it. So, are you ready?
Gosh, I think so. A little nervous, but I'm ready. My body
No,
is
no, no. You'll be
ready.
great.
Okay.
So, the first question is Robbie Couch, what is the gayest thing about you?
Besides the obvious things that I'm sure people can put two and two together, probably this Jennifer Coolidge portrait that I got from my friend Christian, of course. Like, these gays are trying to murder me. That's definitely a top 10 thing about the gayest thing about me. Yeah, what else is gay about me? Pretty much go down the laundry list of everything gay and I check off at least half the boxes. So yeah.
As far back as you can remember, what was your first ever favorite book?
I remember reading like little kid books and kind of enjoying it. But the first novel that I remember really being obsessed with was Auntie Mame, which was like from the 1950s. It's super old school. Because it was in the 1950s, it couldn't be super like directly explicitly queer, but there was like a lot of coded queerness in the themes of it. It was about like a orphan boy who goes to live with his like super flamboyant aunt in New York City. And it was such a fun book. And I remember like truly not being able to put it down, like just becoming obsessed with it. And just, I always say this as a caveat, if you watch it or if you read it or watch it today, it's from the 1950s. So there's a few problematic things in there, not endorsing everything in that book by any means. But it was the first story that I just really became super infatuated with and like kind of set off my love of like reading and writing and all that.
When it comes to dating, what's like one of your biggest red flags or deal breakers? Like, what's one where you're like, check, please?
It'd be really hard for me to date a Republican. Actually, I wouldn't date a Republican. Like that's definitely a red flag. Like, speaking of red, definitely one of them. I think gosh, there's which ones I'm picky. There's many to choose from. I really like, and this is something I think the older I've gotten, I've valued more and more, is just authenticity. So even though it can be hard to judge off like a dating profile, I think if I'm getting the vibes that this person is just trying to put on like a performance, or their answers to the questions and their photos are just very like almost like too curated or like too pretty, and that's the turnoff for me. Like, I just kind of like a little bit of like, hey, this is who I am, take it or leave it. Like, that's, so I guess I'm not answering your question. So the opposite of that would be not being authentic.
Who's a fictional character you remember having a crush on, maybe at a younger age or as you were growing up, and what was it about them?
I remember loving Cedric Diggory, even though like I hate referencing Harry Potter in today's day and age, but loving Cedric Diggory in the film. Well, like I liked his character in the books, and then he was amazing in the movies. Fell in love with him. I even remember, like growing up. Did you watch Home Improvement?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So like Jonathan Taylor. I remember my sister being obsessed with Jonathan Taylor Thomas, and he was like a little too old for me, but because she was obsessed with him, I was obsessed with him. Yeah, the list goes on.
So to bring it back to If I See You Again Tomorrow, I know it's set in Chicago, and of course you yourself spent some time there. And I wondered, what in your mind makes Chicago a romantic city or an ideal setting for a romantic story?
Oh, I love that question. I think Chicago is such a romantic city. And I've actually never been asked that question before, but like that just like set off a light bulb. Because like, yes, I totally think that. And I feel like with this book, especially, I hope Chicago kind of feels like another character in the book. Well, for me, I think I always romanticized Chicago, not necessarily in like a sexual or like romantic way directly, but like growing up, it was like the big city I could escape to as a kid. And so it kind of always I'm originally from Michigan, so it was like the closest big city. Detroit sort of counted, but Chicago was like bigger. And so I think in my head, I kind of equated that to like, it's like the city of like opportunity and like adventure and where anything can happen. And I think that is sort of in the same vein of If I See You Again Tomorrow, where it is sort of this giant playground for Clark and Bo. And so I think yeah, it's just the epitome. There's like the lake, there's beautiful sunsets, the skyline's gorgeous. I think Chicago is 10 out of 10 romance city for sure.
Okay, this one's going to be tough, and I'm going to challenge you to only name one person, but Robbie Couch, who is your personal number one pop diva and why?
I think I have to go with Janet Jackson. Janet is like, yeah, Janet, because the Velvet Rope, her album came out right at like a very pivotal moment in my life where I was like feeling like I was different and kind of knowing I was a little bit different and feeling like that album just really connected with me. I just remember blasting it in my parents' basement and like just kind of having that spiritual connection to her music in a way that like no other pop diva really came close to at the time. So I would probably have to say Janet.
You know, I think a lot of times we like to ask people what's something that you would, if you could, like say to your younger self, like yourself as a teenager. But I specifically want to pivot it just a little bit and ask, like, you know, there's that sweet spot of like right after school when you finally finish school and you're trying to figure out what's next for you. Like, where do you go? What do you do?
Yeah.
What do you tell that version of yourself? What would you tell them about what's ahead and any advice for them?
I would say you are so young. Just breathe. Just don't panic. I feel like to your point, there's so much pressure, I think, on, I mean, young people in general, high schoolers, college, but especially like in your early 20s, I think you kind of either graduate from college or you're out of high school, or like it's such a pivotal point, I think, in a lot of people's lives where it feels like, okay, adulthood's here and I have to have my life figured out, because it's sort of like the end of the road in terms of like that template or that roadmap where society kind of goes, all right, you go to school and then you do this and you do this. And then it's kind of this like open opportunity. And so I remember feeling so much pressure to just have everything figured out and to have like a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan, or to know exactly, you know, what I wanted to do with my life. And it's changed so many times, and things that I, you know, thought I might want to do someday, I've totally done 180s. And I think, now as a 30-something-year-old looking back at, you know, 23-year-olds like panicking about what they want to be when they grow up, I'm like, you have so much time. Just breathe, just chill.
Before we wrap up, I wanted to just give you an opportunity to kind of give me your elevator pitch for If I See You Again Tomorrow. You know, there might be some folks coming to this that don't know about it yet. So how do you sell it?
Yeah. So If I See You Again Tomorrow is my third book, out April 18th. It's about Clark Huckleton, who is stuck in a time loop right from the very beginning. He is already reliving the same day. As you mentioned, it's sort of a gay Groundhog's Day-esque vibe. He's relived the same day 309 times. So when you meet him at the beginning, he's already kind of like feeling it. He's like, oh my God, get me out of here. He's really lonely. He's really depressed, and he is kind of hopeless. Like, it's not in a great place. And then he wakes up in day 310, the 310th day that he's repeated. And there's a new boy in his math class named Bo, and he's just came out of nowhere. And he's like, who is this guy? Why is he suddenly in the time loop? He's never been here before. So Clark and Bo go on this really wild adventure through Chicago. They spend the day together, and Clark really falls hard for Bo. But when he wakes up the next day in day 311, he can't find Bo. And so he's really, really kind of devastated, because not only is he really fallen for Bo, but he feels like Bo could have the answers to getting to tomorrow. So Clark is really laser focused on finding Bo and escaping the time loop.
Thank you, Robbie. Thanks for sharing that. And I mean, thanks for all the time too. We're so excited. April 18th is the date. So everyone should check that out. But Robbie, it was so great to talk to you. So thanks again.
Yay. Thank you so much, Cameron. I love this.